Hey everybody, we're back with another video today. We're going to do something a little bit newer. We've got 5 new bots here on chess.com. Make sure everything's rolling here. I think it is. But today we're just going to see if we can beat all of them. I say beat all of them. I went ahead and beat the first one. 700 rated. I felt like that was a little lower and may not be super entertaining. But we'll go ahead and go for beating these 3 at least on the first go. And then maybe take a try or two on the 2500, but we'll see how this goes. A little bit slower, no time control, so maybe give me a little bit more time to talk through moves. But let's go ahead and get started. We've got Arthur the Adequate. I don't know what these are even from. But all right, e4. Probably play e4 every game. It's typically the only opening I play. We'll go d4. Here, I'm never really sure what I want to do. I think here we're just going to take. Expecting take back. I go knight f3. I feel like my mouse is moving slower. That's a little bit faster. All right. Try and play a little aggressive here. See if we can get this game over a little bit faster. We'll take. Alright, I'm not going to defend that pawn. I'll go knight c3. Let's go bishop d3, get ready to castle. Yep, I think we're still just going to castle. On push, my thought was here. I don't really see a reason not to. Takes will take. Okay. We could take the knight. Take the knight and then take on d4. I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll at least win one pawn here. Not seeing a downside. Now we'll hit this, which I am going to take. That pawn is still hanging, but I'm not overly concerned about that. Let's trying to decide if I want to take. That simplifies, because now all of a sudden this pawn, if I take, it's pretty hard to take back. Let's do that. I feel like this is a good simplification. So my thought here, I'll go ahead and play a check. Let's just double up. We'll pre-move. Nothing there. So here I'm thinking about this. Hit the rook. Pre-move again. And I would really like to just make a path for this pawn to promote. Trying to think about what the best ways to go about that. I could go check. Let's go check, see what his response is. Thinking there. Nope. Okay. Now here, I think I'm just going to start pushing. Let's push again. I like this. Bishop here, rook there. I could also just queen to win the bishop, because I don't see a way that I'm going to get the free queen. So let's go ahead and do that. I need to pre-move. On this move, I need to go here. We don't want to get back rank checkmated. Let's push here. On rook d7, my only move is c6, or rook c6. I think I'm going to play that anyways. No discoveries. Let's just go ahead and push. Let's get rid of the back rank mate. Take from the a pawn so that this stays protected. I'll go ahead and take here. Let's push. Rook b7, I'll go b4. Now we have some discoveries. I don't think any of them really lead to much. So let's just keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. I should have probably played this last move. We'll go and force a trade. This has not been the fastest game, but we're going to get there. If he goes here, we are A-okay with that. If he takes, we push. Get the promotion. Oh. Didn't mean to do that. That was a mouse slip. That's a good thing it's a computer game. I could have just pushed anyways. I'm not really paying attention here. Alright. Push. Queen. And then we'll just bring the king over. Alright. New bot. Kate the Capable. Kingdom Chess. I wonder if it's some kind of video game or something. Alright. Go e4 again. Knight f3. Typically play the Italian game when given the opportunity. What am I missing here? I should know this opening theory and I don't. We're going to try this. It's going to say it's a 1300 rated player, so I feel like I should get away with it. Keep developing. Drop the knight back. I was going to say probably going to need to get ready to defend that pawn a bit more. I think I like the good defense for, I forget how this thing goes, offense instead of defense, more or less. Do I want to drop the bishop back and give g5? I will be losing a pawn in that, but with a decent amount of compensation, I would think I could also take and go knight b5. I think I'm going to drop it back. I'm expecting this. Don't get it. Let's go ahead and it's tough. I'm going to go here first. I don't want to allow bishop g4. This move I wasn't concerned about. And then takes. Let's get sharp. Take here. You gotta watch this. This is the concern. Any sacrifices? I don't think so. There could be. I am going to eventually lose this pawn. Let's try it. We're going to sack. Then I'm going to take here. Expecting that, and then I'm going to drop back. This was my thought process here. Not overly concerned by that move. Let's just go queen e2. We got to check here if we want it. Don't even more. Let's go ahead and castle. Up a couple of pawns here. Happy to offer trades. I don't think I get much out of pushing. I do get this outpost square, which may be nice. I do kind of like that, actually. Let's push. Okay. And then I was thinking this. We can pre-move that. Wasn't thinking about that move. I'm thinking this is my best reply. Don't think I'm gonna have a good way to save this here. Definitely just missed this move. Okay, offers a trade. I don't deserve it, but we will take it. Thinking about knight a4. Trying to find ways to get this bishop out of the game. Also have knight g6. I think knight g6 I like a little bit better. Let's go for that. Am I just losing the pawn now? I don't have much from check. Takes here, allows bishop f5. We don't want to allow that. Actually, that would be fine because I have this fork. So actually, let's start with that. He doesn't have a good way, I think, to kick that knight. Push doesn't work here. I could drop the rook. That still doesn't work. Staying sharp. This has not been an uninteresting game. Okay. What about push here? Bishop takes. That's interesting. So if I push, bishop takes. I have this fork. If he takes, now the bishop covers that at the end. Dang, that almost works. I have it right now. Takes, take the rook, takes here. Trying to make this winning. My last rapid game, I missed a few tactics, so I'm trying not to miss any in this game. Try to focus on the forcing moves a little bit more. A move like knight check or knight f4, or not knight check, knight e7 certainly isn't bad. I would just I would love for a move like this to amount to something. Takes, rook takes here. Takes, rook takes, king takes. Rook here. That's a bit dicey, but I feel like it's winning. We're just gonna go for it. It's a little more exciting. King takes, rook here. Okay. Yeah. I missed that move. All right. Rook for the bishops. This is not me beating computers. This is me showing how to lose to a 1300. All right, first try. All right, we'll focus here. Oh, I admittedly do not play great against this opening. I feel like knight takes is the best move. And the hard part is there really any way for me to hold on to this piece? Does this move amount to much? It might. It just might. I have check. King up. Not really a great follow-up there. Here, I feel like this is the correct move. It's just scary to play. Let's take. Let's drop the bishop back to here. Try to break these pawns up a little bit. Here we're just going to castle. It seems like I'm holding on to it for the time being. Now I have takes. Seems like a blunder. What about just rook here? Or knight? Knight here doesn't feel bad. If he pushes, I was thinking knight b5. Nothing else is really hanging. Knight b5, threaten this pawn, threaten the fork. It's protected by the bishop. So we're going to get the fork. Is there anything better? I don't think so. We'll take it. Is this amounting to anything else? It doesn't seem like it. Close, maybe. Maybe just protect that pawn now. Yeah, make it hard. Bishop there. Let's just get the king out of the way. It's going to do this to win the knight back. I could go here, double pawns. I don't think it really matters too much. I think it's probably better to try to keep the initiative here. Okay, doesn't want to take it. Let's go queen up. Looking at that pawn with check. It's an interesting move. Doesn't really amount to anything. I can still just take it. Not threatening a ton, but it's a pawn. And I'm up quite a bit. Pawn grabbing may not be the best move. But it's hard to argue against sometimes. Can get the bishop in the game a little bit more with check. Again, I'm not really seeing a reason not to do that. So let's go for it. Check here. You can block with the knight. I also have this check now, which is important because the bishop covers it. Okay, so what I'm looking at is bishop check here. I believe the only way king goes there regardless. I see. Okay. So if bishop here and knight blocks, then I'm winning the bishop after check, because then that knight's no longer defending it and the king has to move away. But on bishop check and king e7, I'm not sure what the follow-up would be there. I can always just try to bring the queen in. I wonder if pawn check is better. Knight check first, king has to go there. Okay, I think this is, so we go knight check, king here, I push this pawn. Knight's pinned. Only option to take is knight takes, but then the bishop's hanging. I think that's the move. And then push. And then didn't look at this move, missed it, but I'm thinking queen a7 still holds it together. I also can just take with check here, but then after takes, let's go for this. On this, okay, so it doesn't play it anyways. Let's go ahead and take. Ignores it somehow. Let's go check this way. I don't think it's really gonna matter. Queen blocks. Is there anything fun to play here? Check. Let's go here. Okay. Check. We'll just try to liquidate. Fastest checkmate probably doesn't matter. Let's just try to do it fastest in terms of time here. Check. All right, that was a little bit better than the first time through. Now we got Silas the Strong. Got the Sicilian. Go knight f3. Hopefully this goes better than our first attempt against the 1300 computer. I typically play bishop b5 here. I don't think that c4 is recommended by the computer at all, but it's a move that entices me sometimes. Why not? Why not? Let's bring the knight in. I assume in this opening I would like to use this pawn to defend. So the bishop probably goes on e2. There's not much use to fianchettoing it. Let's just go and start with that. Let's pin the knight. So on knight d5, bishop probably just drops back to e7. Knight b5, kind of the same thing, a little less effective. The convenient thing is that after he goes bishop e7, as long as I go like a3 to prevent knight b4, he doesn't really have a good way to kick that knight out for another few moves at the minimum. Knight a4 would be fine actually, because that pawn would be hanging. Let's do it. It's at least improving the knight. Doesn't drop the bishop back, so I am going to take this opportunity to double his pawns. I I think I like knight takes. And then on pawn takes, bishop h6. And then the rook comes over, and then I'd like to go knight h4. I can't leave it hanging. Well, no, the pawn's in the way. I think I like that. Knight h4, try to get the queen into the game. Here. And then check. Man, I really feel like this should just be completely winning. Why is it not? Tell me why it's not forcing. All right, takes. Regardless of king or rook takes, I go check. Also, I guess if king takes, this isn't check. He can push here. And that's gonna protect from knight f5. So this may not be completely forced. If I go check first, he has to go here. Check here. Then maybe knight f5 on takes, take. That could be kind of nasty, but still not like forced mate. Knight f5 first. So knight f5 takes. Takes, takes, check. Can't go here. King's got to go here. Seems like I'm kind of getting the same position regardless of the move order. I think I like check first. I'm going to start with that. King here. And then here I was thinking knight f5. Bishop takes, knight takes. We're hitting that. If he tries to defend it, I can come hit it again. I think that's the move. Huh. Bishop check. Okay, so check with the bishop. If he takes, obviously that's mate. Only other option is king here. And then that's gotta be killer. Yeah, okay. I think black was holding that together until knight d4, and then that was... I don't think there was any way to get around that. All right, we stumbled at the 1300 for whatever reason. Got the 1650 in one go. Time for the 2500. Probably got about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes left here, if that long. So this one's gonna be a bit tougher, obviously. Stick with the Italian game. Don't get the fried liver. So here, the standard moves, I believe, are knight c3, pawn d3, trying to get the bishop out to one of these two squares, and castles. I like to play a3. I don't think it's the best move, but I feel like it's a helping move. I really like the knight on c3, and I don't like it getting pinned by that bishop on b4. So typically here I play a3. That's what I'm going to play now. I don't think it's the recommended move, but that's what we're going to roll with. And then now I'll bring the knight out. Typically knight here, I go pawn up, and often castles is the most common, or d6. I generally like this position because, especially after pushing the queenside pawns, black is typically going to castle kingside. And once the bishop's on c5 and the pawn's on d6, there's no way for black to prevent me from doubling the pawns, other than takes and letting my knight get this nice outpost square with the queen kicked back to d8 typically. So it's typically not something I'm opposed to. Also, if pawn, let's clear this. The only way to prevent the doubling of pawns is to play h6, but I'm kind of okay with just playing bishop to h4 there. And if he wants to push, that's going to make it pretty hard to castle kingside. So this is going to be my move. He does allow the doubling. I think actually I might play h3 first. I don't necessarily want to give black the same idea that I'm trying to create. Having said that, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing. Just to open it up for my rook. If black does double, I can take this way and get the rook in. So let's go ahead and push the knight. He just takes. Trying to think of move order is going to make a huge difference here. So knight takes here, check. Probably take with the pawn. Pretty confident I'm going to start with knight takes knight first. So let's do that. We'll just see what the response is. Either bishop takes or pawn takes. Yep. Pawn takes there. So two options I see are bishop takes here or bishop to h6. I'm leaning bishop here. On takes, I would just drop the bishop to there, and that looks pretty good for me. On pawn takes, just ask a good question at that point. I am going to take here first. I'm going to double him up. Unless he does that. And then I think bishop here. Hit that pawn, keep an eye on the king side. I think with how open this is, I've got the potential for an attack. I think that's the right move. Okay. Here I'm leaning this to allow myself to take with the g-pawn and open up this file at the king. Won't let me do that drag. There we go. This doesn't quite hang a pawn, I don't think. Takes, knight takes. I don't think that's a move. I could be wrong. It's probably worth looking at. All right, takes, knight takes here, queen h5. I don't think, maybe that works. It's an interesting one. What about it wouldn't work? Is there any tactics with sacking the bishop? All right, so takes, knight takes, queen h5. I'm threatening mate in 1. He has no way to defend that pawn. There's nowhere the king. Technically, I guess the king can run to g7. But then takes here, takes, that's fine. So king can't run to g7. So takes, knight takes, queen takes. I think his only option is to push the pawn. So once he pushes the pawn to h6, trying to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Takes, takes, queen h5. I'll show it again. Takes, takes, queen h5, pawn h6. And then I guess the idea is he is hitting my knight there. And I don't really have a great answer for that other than takes. So takes, takes, here. Pawn h6. And then I really probably just have to drop my knight back at that point. So that may be the reason that doesn't work, is pawn h6. We'll look at it one more time, but I think that kind of nixes that idea. Okay, maybe one more idea. Bear with me. Takes, queen h5, h6, h4. Here, if takes, I take, threatening mate down this file, and I think that's hard to defend. Oh, takes, queen here, push, h4. If knight takes, rook takes, and I still feel like that's good. It's a big risk, because if this is wrong, I'm probably just losing. That's why I'm spending so much time on it, which I'm sure is thrilling to watch. One more time. Takes, queen h5, h6, h4. So in this scenario, we've got queen here, my knight here, black's knight here, and then black's pawn here, white's pawn here. If I'm struggling to see a good response to that. I'm starting to push my limits for how far I can calculate in advance. I really like the look of this. He may not even take. He does. All right. And this is what I had in mind. Then obviously if queen takes, pawn takes. If knight, maybe just queen here. Man, it is so close. I feel like it's winning. Prove me wrong. It's going to prove me wrong. So here it's basically saying that I'm going to kind of win the knight back. I don't think he wants to take. He's then going to be threatening check there. So here's my question now. Takes, queen takes here. If queen takes here, I think I'm fine. Because once I go king d1, I don't see any follow-up checks. Queen takes here, here. This pawn's hanging, but that's not a check. It doesn't matter. Because I'm threatening mate in 1. So if takes, I take here. I don't think he can take his queen off of that. Off of that diagonal. My knight is now pinned. Okay, so if I take, we could always look at a rook lift at some point, but that's going to be hard. If I takes, he could go queen here, check, and then just queen back. And that's going to prevent me from castling, certainly. I think I need to take. Bishop takes. Here, queen, here. All right, so if I go here, his only check is this. I could always block with the knight at that point. It's not a bad option. I could also go up. to maintain contact on that bishop. I kind of like that move. So if I go up here, he only has one check, which is this, but he can't play that because that loses the bishop. Or she, sorry, ball of the bold. She can't play that because that loses the bishop. If I go here, takes, I'm not worried about. Bishop back. Then I was just thinking this. Bring the rook into the game. I like this move. This is kind of what I thought was going to happen, is a forced trade. And then obviously after takes, bishop's not hanging because the rook covers it. And somehow after all of that, I'm not up anything. I don't really have a choice. I think I've got to take. Let's start with that. Don't want to go rook f1, rook h to f1, because that hangs the pawn. Knight e6 is a move to consider. After rook there, there might be something. Like this might be a draw. Do I want to draw? Not necessarily. But there are worse things. I think this is the most aggressive move, and as long as I have the rook on h1 defending this pawn, I'll always have a square to bring it back to. I'm not seeing a downside to this. Bala sees. She's at least calling me a worthy opponent, so now the question is on rook f7, if I just go back, am I going to get a draw? If rook ever comes here, so now here I think bishop has to go back to f6 to defend that pawn, because otherwise I take, and if the bishop's not on f6, that pawn's hanging. We always have some checks there that aren't going to amount to much. I can bring this rook in. Also not going to amount to much. I'm trying to find some combination here that might be winning. If I drop the knight to here, and I drop the knight back even farther, I think I just run into the same thing. There's not a good way for me to hit this pawn at the moment. I'm leaning towards this. I think this is probably the right move. Expecting that. Wasn't expecting that move. What am I missing? I guess the thought maybe, well, his king's blocking those. So after I take, in order for him to get his rook on this file and come hit here, that's at least a couple moves. And I might even have time to put up a defense there. Okay, maybe I'm getting a pawn here. No, I'm not. Takes rook here. Takes there. Takes rook here. Here. Rook takes. I think that's probably just a wash at the end of that. So I'm wondering, instead of opening him up, if just knight checks is the right move. King obviously can't go there because of the fork. And then I could try to get my own knight in. I don't love it. I do not love it. may not have mattered much, but maybe had I moved my king here, this would have worked out a bit better. I'm sure we probably would have ended with a different sequence of moves. I'm sure Bala saw this in advance. So once again, knight takes c7, rook here, knight to d5, rook takes with check, king f3 to hit the bishop, bishop f4, and then if knight takes, pawn takes, king takes, both of these pawns are going to be hanging for the rook at the end of that. It's possible that I could just go all in on the h-pawn, but I don't think that's a good idea. I'll still have my knight, but it's just not in a good position to defend any of these pawns. But I'm struggling to see another option that's going to make forward progress. Here it just kind of feels like I'm at the mercy of black. The knight just isn't going to have too far to go at that point. I think I'm going to go for it. I don't like it. Okay, and I was not considering that, but I am now seeing that I could have also had this move as well to hit that pawn. So that worked out to an extent. I'm wondering if I just ignore that and go knight to b5. One way or another, I'm winning at least a pawn there. Unless he goes like rook d8, but then I feel like that's a pretty decent sacrifice. I'd call that a win. So I'm thinking here, if bishop takes, then I just bring my rook over, because at that point, the only reason I had the rook here was protecting that pawn. I think I like this move. If rook takes, I probably just trade. Okay. King back up. So he's basically just going to guarantee that he, at a minimum, gets that pawn back. It may have been worthwhile for me to do the check first. I was going to lose that pawn anyways. Excuse me. Here, bishop takes. Here, doesn't work. So here, rook takes. Bishop has to drop back. I don't think there's much there. It's like I was almost trapping the bishop in my mind, but I don't think so. Or not trapping the bishop, but getting to the point where he couldn't win this pawn. But I think here, well, hold on. So here, rook takes, bishop takes, here. And then he can't defend with the pawn because that would trap it, so he's got to drop the bishop back. And then it's knight against bishop, which can be done for sure. I think this is probably my best bet. At least try to bring the king in. Rook takes. And then I don't think there's anything sneaky here. Obviously, I can't take the bishop. So here, I think we're just going to try to bring the king in a little bit. Bishop back to here. I'm just going to bring the knight back. Let's see if we can start targeting some of these pawns. That move makes sense. I'm looking at knight here. If this, it's a fork and I win the pawn. So I don't see a great response to that. Always just push the pawn first, I guess. All right, I'm going to take a brief break. We'll be right back. All right. So I was liking knight e4. b6 takes away that square. So I guess the point to this is that how do I counter this move? Maybe I need some aggression of my own first. If b6, I mean b6 is weak at that point. So then maybe I could look at just dropping back. We're going to start with this. I'm expecting b6. We don't get b6. Maybe c4 now. Prevent c4, then d5. Now that is protected. c4, d5, knight g5. If takes, then take, and I think I'm winning. And I'm not thinking knight g5 initially, because then the king gets in. And after check, knight's not really doing much on g5 anyways. So here, pushes, takes, and then I'm probably just going to lose that pawn. But if I just let the king in, then... So is this not a good response? Pushes, d5, knight here. Let's say king to d6. Then I could take, and I think in that scenario, I'm going to start with this. On this move, I was thinking here. So I guess here takes, here takes, and pushes. And I don't like that trade-off. I may have butchered this. But I don't think other than that I have a good move. I could drop the knight to here. And then if takes, we just take, and I've at least got a defender there. I'm worried that this is just losing. Takes. At the end of that, it's basically just my king here, his pawn here, his king here, and nothing stopping that pawn. So I think he could just walk his king over, and as long as he maintains an eye on that pawn, I would never have time to take. I think that's losing, so I think knight c3 is going to be my only option there. I'm at least keeping his king out a bit. Could always come check again. It's kind of another situation where maybe there's a forced draw. I could also bring my king back. If king here, and the question is, how do I defend that pawn? King here, I could do this. I could do it right now. Endgames are hard. Move order is so important. Knight here prevents the king from coming in because it covers the square. Doesn't necessarily prevent a ton else from happening, but it does prevent the king from coming in. And then obviously with the bishop covering here, my king has no route to infiltrate on this side. So I would eventually have to bring the king back anyways. As long as this pawn stays here, he has no way to promote unless his king gets all the way over here. So knight here and then working my king over. Feels like it might be the best route. Start. Here. So it's tempting. I don't think I want to check for the same reason that I didn't want to earlier. I do have a potential protected passer. I guess let's look at it. So takes here to defend the pawn. I guess he could always just push. I don't know. It becomes a race, and I'm not sure I'm winning. The thought here is that I could always just keep bringing my king over. And eventually, I can work it to here. He's not really going to have any way to stop that. I don't think I want to give my knight up yet. I could also... I don't want to give my knight up yet. I'm set on that. Bishop there is interesting. I wasn't really concerned about that move, and I don't necessarily think I should be. I can always just put these pawns on light squares. The knight still blocks that. So with this pawn, the king's still not getting in, other than pushing that. Almost be nice if I had one more bonus move here. If I could put the pawn on a4, that would prevent this move from ever being effective. Or do I want to, since the king is not getting in? No, I think I want to leave it up. I'm going to push. Expecting that. Yeah. I feel like we played this well so far. Looking at a couple different options here. I don't have to take. It may be better to let him take so that I am still covering all these squares, because if he takes, I take. And then all three of those squares are still protected. King can't get in. And the king right now, the knight's doing a really good job. The king could be completely shut out. And there's really not much he can do about it. If he takes, I could also just take with the king, which would not be a bad move by any means. So here I'm thinking about maybe just something like g4, just to get that pawn down the board a little closer to promotion. Takes here. If he pushes, then I think I just push this pawn and I can take with the king. I don't think I'm worried about it. If pushes here, I push. Again, here. Oh, so that is important to note. If he pushes here, he is blocking that pawn on a3, and then I have no way to protect it. That's something to look at. So do I want to take? Is there anything from taking, king takes, check? I don't think so. I don't think I'm gaining a ton from that. So my concern, I was going to do this and let him take, but my concern is now if something like a4 and I push, takes, sorry, a4, push, takes, bishop b3, I am losing a pawn. Okay, so then what about this? What about a4 first? a4 and he just pushes, I'm fine with that. If a4 and he takes, I'm fine with that. a4 he takes here, I'm still fine with that. That might be the move. What am I missing on a4? a4 gets all my pawns on light squares. He has no way to get them off light squares. And he takes, and I'm still preventing the king from getting in. I really don't want to let the king infiltrate, because if the king gets in, I start to lose pawns. I think a4 is the move. Here we've got to take. Yeah, and the bishop can sit there, but the king can't get in if the knight's there. And so now I think I just need to bring my king back. As long as my knight's here, that pawn can't push. This pawn can't push. The bishop can't hit anything, and the king cannot get in. So I see no reason for me not to do this. Okay. Okay. So the bishop can prevent my king from getting in. I don't think I have too much to gain from checks. I could always give a check and see what he does. I don't want to push these pawns because I think the control I have over these squares is pretty important. And if I move the knight, I can always drop it back to get that same control. Could always just push as kind of a waiting move. But frankly, unless I can take one of those pawns or sack the knight in a productive way, this may just be a draw. The more that I think about it. There may not be much else to do. If I go here, there's really no way to ever prevent me from getting his bishop off that diagonal. What am I missing here? Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Check, no matter where his king goes. Knight here hit the bishop. Bishop drops back. And then at that point, I'm concerned about losing my control again. Man, I feel like this should be winning, but I just can't see. I can't see the breakthrough. Could always go king back. I assume bishop's going to go back to d4. Then check. King here. Knight here. But then he's getting in, and I don't think I can allow that. I may not have much of a choice. Because I think I have a draw. I think I could probably just repeat. And there's not a good way for me to let's go once. And then here he probably just brings the king in. And I miss out on any check opportunities I had, which is probably inconsequential anyways. So if I go check here, here, That just can't be good. And he's going to find a way to defend that pawn. I could always push this pawn up. I don't know if creating an outpost square on f6 would help me much. It would at least allow me to bring my king in, maybe. I'm not seeing too much of a choice here, so we're going to start with that. So king here, this is where I can't move the knight, because if I move the knight once, king gets in. That is a no-go. There's a chance I could do a little bit of finagling here. King up, bishop back. King d2. Kind of the same thing. Man. If I can get my king to here, there's a chance that the king still can't get in, except for there. That might allow me some freedom. I'm going to try this. So the thought is that if I go here, I might have a move with my knight to try and make something happen. It's probably just doesn't amount to anything. It's hard because there's really no fast way for me to get to these pawns. If I move the knight, he may just start pushing. So now I'm thinking, well, if I go here, he has check. That's the downside of that. He's got to kick my king off that square. I was like, it'd be nice if my king was one square closer to block this pawn. And obviously he gets there in time right now, but it's not something I really want to mess with. So the thought was that I bring my king here, block the king from getting in this way. And it's at least 3 moves for the king to get to here. But if the king gets to there, then I'm not preventing this pawn from promoting, other than sacking the knight. So I guess the thought is if I have 2 moves, this does not work. Because then he just pushes and I'm not in time. Because do I have a couple moves with the knight to make something happen? I think the answer is no. Well, not entirely true. I'm now looking at here. It's a maybe. A maybe. So I'm thinking if the knight's here, it blocks the king's access through this point. Now the king's still getting in. I'm always just a couple moves too slow. Here, let's say bishop here, here, king up. Yeah, I'm not gaining much there. That is a bummer. I'm thinking about just working my king back now. I don't see anything to stop it. Maybe looking for this. Now that he'll have it covered. Certainly a possibility. Probably not gaining anything there. Gotta be careful because I don't want to lose this game either. And I could certainly find a way to do that. If I never move this knight, I won't lose the game. I think it's impossible for me to lose the game without moving that knight. But I think it's also impossible for me to win without moving that knight. Okay, so one thing I am considering is if I move the knight and king goes here, the king can't get in unless my king moves. The only way to get my king to move is bishop check. But then I go here and his bishop blocks his access. The only downside to that is that then he starts to push. And that's still 2 moves. If I move the knight, check here. And then he just pushes anyways. And the annoying thing is the only productive square I could even move my knight to involves moving it away from where the pawn is going to promote at. There's really just no good way to go about that. This move is harmless to make. So either way, I'm not concerned about this because the knight always takes. Here, king. Here. And that might be some progress. We're going to try it. If I lose, it's because I tried. I had a draw. I could have just repeated. I could also just move my king here, move the knight back, and it's a draw. But I'm going to get a little bit aggressive to try to pull something out. Can't say we didn't try. Maybe I should rethink. Check. Man. This is brutal. Absolutely brutal. Knight here is the only way I prevent the king from getting in. Which I knew this risk. So if I don't go in there, the king gets in here. No way around that. If I go here, pawn pushes. It's check. So I have to take, king takes. And then at that point, am I losing? It's possible. I don't think I have another choice though. All right. Again, I had the draw. We're trying. Trying very hard. Knight up. King gets in. This is a fun little case of I don't think I have a good move. Which is called Zigzwang, I think. If I move the knight anywhere, king gets in, takes that pawn. If I move the king anywhere, that pawn hangs. If I move this pawn, bishop here wins it. Knight here. If I just push. And SOL. Push. Here. Knight here. Brutal. Because if I attack this pawn and the pawn pushes, I'm 4 knight moves away from being able to attack it. And it doesn't matter because the king gets in anyways. I win for it, and I think that lost it. I'm fairly confident at this point. Knight here. Check. If takes. That might be my only option. Is to go here, here, and check. And that way I'm defending here. If king goes, king has to take pretty much at that point. I think this is my only option. King in. And does this work? This is the $1 million question right now. Nope, it doesn't work. Well, it was a fun game, guys. Just king back up, and I have nothing to do about it. Yeah. I mean, here I at least have maybe a check to regain something, but this pawn's too fast at that point. Be down 2 pawns. Bummer. Bummer. See if they blunder. Just push. Here. Bishop out. So here, pushes. I can't take because then I'm not in time, but here, here, queen d1, and now all of a sudden I am winning that pawn. I'm still not going to be in time, but it's a fun effort. Here, just bishop check. I can drop back, but then bishop's covering. Not what I was expecting. I do get a pawn. Okay. Probably is immediately losing. Trying to take that pawn, but I don't. It's probably my best bet. Yeah, so he pushes. I don't have a good way to cover there. I mean, if it was at all possible for me to sack the knight for this pawn. Takes. And I don't think I'm going to be able to... I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that off. I don't think so. Knight h3 pushes. Knight g1 here. I'm going to start with this. Okay. And I feel like I should start pushing on my own. The knight can be in time if this ever becomes an issue. I don't think I have much there. That might be something because I can always sack the knight. So here, push, here. I guess he just pushes again. So I don't think that one works. So I don't think I have a choice but to do this. I see here, king there. And I'm out of time. We won't resign. We'll play it out. We'll try to bring the knight back to see if it can get there. Or you just push anyways. That's fine. I get to win a pawn. Does that count for something? I'll do a quick review after this game just to see if there was anything. We'll push. Let's go up here. Okay. Okay. I don't want to give him my pawn, but I don't think they're going to give me a choice. It's a bummer. Okay, at this point we can resign. Let's look at the game. I thought I almost had Bala, but she got me. Oh. Pop-up window blocked. Okay. See how we did. It's pretty much just dead even game. It did say I had a slight advantage. Coach says it's natural to forget about tactics in the end game, but it costs you in this game. I think it's probably just saying that when I went for the end game, I lost. And I should have just held the draw, which I kind of knew, but that's no fun. I won't do the whole review here. Let's see. I did like knight d5. I'm typically a fan of playing that one. And then this whole sequence. Let's see. I didn't like knight xg5, but man, I really did. Knight f5 is a great move. Queen h5 is a great move. h6. Hey, we got the brilliant move. That counts for something, right? One brilliant move to keep it at 0.65. 0.65 in favor of white. All right, so it doesn't like knight xg5. Let's look at this one. See what it likes here. h4 anyways? No. g4. I think I looked at g4 initially. Because I think I remember saying I would take and open up the rook. Oh well. Queen h5. So we had the brilliant move here. And then queen d7 was an inaccuracy. Exf5 was an inaccuracy. I didn't feel like I had too much of a choice there. Is castles better? No, it does not like castles. No. Not castling. I'm not sure. What's it like here? Back to the review. It wants... Oh. And then here, Queen G4. That is a nice move. Pin the knight, threaten discoveries. I didn't even consider Queen G4. Didn't think EXF5 was too much worse. Queen takes, Queen H6 was best. Bishop takes, King E2 was the best move. Okay, I felt good about that. I do still have a slight advantage at this point. Had to take. It likes Knight E6 the best. Rook F7. Didn't like Rook A1. Said it's good. It just wants to go back. Yeah, so this was another point where I thought that maybe I had a draw at least. Could have maybe gotten the computer into a repetition, but we pushed the whole game. Rook X F7 takes. It did not like Knight X C7. Knight takes on C7. It wanted to check again. I just felt like that was going to be really slow. Rook H8 was a mistake, which I definitely thought Rook C8 was coming, and I'm going to assume that that was the best move. Yeah, so that's what I thought the computer was going to play. It went... It went Rook there instead. It didn't like Knight B5. So what does it like? I don't see how that stops me from losing a pawn. Well, I guess because then if Rook takes here and if Bishop takes there, that's a good move. Missed that one. Missed a nice defensive move there. Okay, King F3 was best. It likes all of these trades, and then Knight C3 it did not like. Wants me to push a pawn. Yeah, this is dicey. I feel like in these end games it's hard to kind of see what's best. I missed a better way to move a piece to safety. B4. It likes B4 a little bit better. And I do too. That was a complete miss on my part. Yeah. I missed a great way to lock the king out. A4, like Knight C3 better here. Takes. And then I think at this point, yeah, it's basically just going to say it was a draw the entire time until I got aggressive with my knight. Nope. That was an inaccuracy. What was my move here? G5, Bishop C1. Oh, I see. I missed this. I had Knight E7. And then it takes, I just take, and I'm still holding on. Here, king can't get in, and it's still a draw. Okay. So not a bad game, but just missed a couple key moves there, and then that was a complete blunder. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but honestly, I kind of thought I was losing at this point. Clearly, that was not the case. We'll see what it had in mind here. Just king up. I don't quite understand that one. And then if king moves, I push. Okay. Honestly, not a bad game. On a review, it says played like a 2800. I feel like 2800 should be good enough to beat a 2500 computer, but oh well. It's not bad. Pretty good battle there with Bala. Kind of enjoy playing the computers. I enjoy taking my time a little bit more. Talking through some of the moves. we may bring this back for when they add new computers to the game. But I think we're gonna leave Ball at one go. That game took a while. Hopefully this was entertaining, and I think that's gonna wrap it up for this video. We'll see you in the next one.